Welcome to Family Gamer TV. Now we're finally getting our head above water, catching up with news from E3 and all those new games coming in. Now a really big announcement, the biggest announcement for us I think, were those Amiibo figures from Nintendo. Now as you know, if you watch the channel, we've tracked closely with Skylanders and then Disney Infinity, and then with the Angry Birds Telepods figures. But what I thought I'd do is to look at what the differences are about the Amiibo offering from Nintendo, about those Amiibo figures. What are the similarities, what are the differences, and how do they compare in value and in fun and in enjoyment to those Skylanders and Disney Infinity figures. So as you can see, we've got them in our hands. Get a sense of the weight and the packaging that we'll be seeing as they hit stores. Now this is just sort of Target merchandise here. The actual final packaging may be a bit different. But I think it's easy to think that once you've seen one toy video game craze, you've seen them all. And actually, counter to first impressions, is actually a very distinct experience. Nintendo's Amiibo characters offer another new way to combine toys and video games. But there are some differences to how other products are doing it. First of all, there's some similarities. Again, you'll be using a plastic toy figure to access particular characters in the game, and as you play and progress through the game, your advancement and your choices are automatically saved back onto the toy figure, ready for the next time you use them, and that's all done wirelessly. But this is where we first encounter real differences. Rather than bringing playable characters in, like Skylanders and Disney Infinity, Amiibo figures grant access to companion or competitor characters. This is a substantial difference, but one that makes sense. It would be kind of hard to imagine Nintendo selling a Super Smash Brothers, but they're not letting us use the Mario character to fight with unless we purchase a particular toy figure. And that is actually, you know, that is what Activision and Disney do with their games. But in a Nintendo world, that just wouldn't make sense. So in Super Smash Bros., for example, the Amiibo version of Mario would be used to bring in a character to fight against or team up with or battle other game characters. Using the character in this way would increase its attack and its defense and let it earn new fighting tactics, and all those would be saved back to the figure. The data is then transferred via the Wii U gamepad, which is another big difference about the Amiibo ecosystem. Unlike Skylanders that sells players a new portal pretty much each year, and Disney Infinity that requires that Infinity base, Amiibo figures can use the technology we've already got in the Wii U gamepad and should save us some money. It will keep costs down, but it also changes the interaction somewhat. Because the figures don't sit on the gamepad the whole time during being played, the data is only transferred when you bring them on the pad, either to bring them into the game or perhaps at the end of the game, so there's some slight differences there. This will be supported on 3DS in 2015. There's going to be a peripheral for the handheld that lets you do a similar sort of experience but with the 3DS game. I'm not sure whether we'll see separate 3DS figures, but there's potential here that they'll have limited edition figures that are only available if you buy a 3DS version and will potentially be slightly different to the Wii U version of the same figure. In some ways, the Amiibo figures could work without a base at all because they don't have to sit on that stand, they don't have to sit on the gamepad the whole time. And I really like that idea. In fact, that's what I thought they were going to do when I first saw these figures, actually have that near-field technology inside the toy and sort of free the toys from the base and actually make them more toy-like. But I think what it seems to be the case is that those bases and that approach is something that is being extended and carried on by the Amiibo characters. Those bases also are going to carry on the idea of having a themed look to them that is the way to identify which collection of Amiibos and which game they relate to. You can see on these earlier ones that you've got the Super Smash Bros. Logo, and in later games I think we'll see different versions of those figures and with different logos on the base, and that adds to that sort of collectability and the collectible toy nature of these Amiibos. So far we're expecting 10 figures for Super Smash Bros. Mario, Donkey Kong, Kirby, Pikachu, Princess Peach, Samus and the Animal Crossing villager, Wii Fit Trainer, Yoshi and Link. With 4 more we've seen on the official website: Fox, Marth, Pit and Zelda. And in an interview with Takahashi on IGN, he's shared news and plans that each and every Smash Brothers character would have an Amiibo, although it's not clear when those will hit retail. So moving on, in addition to those Smash Brothers figures being supported in that game, they'll also be compatible with Mario Kart 8, Yoshi's Woolly World, Mario Party 10 and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, that Super Mario 3D sort of spin-off game. But the interesting thing is whether those games will also get their own related collectible figurines, and that seems likely with those bases having the logo. And this cross-compatibility is another significant difference for Amiibo. Having a single figure that enables you to bring a companion character into multiple games not only means that you don't have to buy as many toy figures, but also it changes the interaction. There's more of a flow between upgrades and abilities between the different games. So, you know, doing something in Mario Kart may then result in that figure having something different, a different ability, perhaps a cart attack in Super Smash Bros. And there's a nice sort of back and forth between the games. Now, I think for younger players, this also creates a greater connection between the toy character and the in-game figure, the sort of the virtual figure in the game. And there's more of a sense that this Mario that they're bringing in as a companion is their guy, it's their Mario. Which is something which Skylanders has always worked hard to sort of create that connection between player and toy figure. Getting this cross-game feature right, though, will be important, because if bringing a Super Smash Bros. Mario figure into Mario Kart is more limited than bringing, say, the Mario Kart version of the same figure, players may feel that the experience of the cross-game is not as good as it could be. Equally, these need to work as a collectible toy line. Each different version of its character needs to have a distinct reason to be owned and collected, and it's likely we'd see multiple versions of Mario for the different franchises. Skylanders walked this line, some would say well, some would say sort of overstepped it, with their potentially controversial reposed figures, where they're selling players the same character again but in a different pose. Although this encouraged collectors to buy multiple versions of the same character, in the game they did unlock specific abilities that you wouldn't be able to get unless you had access to this new figure. So there you go, that's our roundup. So there you go, that's our roundup of the Amiibo figures coming from Nintendo. Now we're going to have lots more news as we approach launch of Super Smash Bros. And as we get into that holiday season. It's good to see how they look and how they feel in the hand. There's a quality about them. You know, I think they're really aiming at that sort of Skylanders Disney Infinity style figure. But equally, they're sort of shying away from being a direct competitor because of the differences here. I think Nintendo have a distinct offering that can sit alongside those other games without potentially eating into the profits and the sales of Activision or Disney. We'll be tracking with Amiibo as we come up to the holiday season, as the figures start hitting stores. If you subscribe to the channel, then we can let you know when those videos are up. If you've got comments, you know, the things you think are good or bad about the Amiibo figures, what you're hoping for. I know there's a lot of talk about whether that Mario fireball will light up like a light core Skylander. So things like that, we'd love to hear your ideas, so do get a comment down below. But for now, that's all we've got time for. We'll be back with more soon.